Hey,
Hi, Adi. How are you? Just a second.
I'm
Let
good.
me
How are you?
connect. I'm excellent. So you are in Auckland right now?
No, I'm in California.
Okay, you're in California.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that you're in New Zealand.
Yeah, so my story is a bit complicated. Like, I was born in New Zealand and I went back there to get my master's, and that's when I made this film. But I grew up in California. So,
So I think we're in the same time zone then.
California and New Zealand?
So there is a California and New Zealand as well.
No, 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 no. I'm in California and New
So I'm
Zealand
saying I'm
is.
saying I'm saying if you are in California, then we are in the same time zone.
Oh, yeah, you and I are in the same time zone.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
West
Okay.
Coast.
Yeah, of course. So we are in
Yeah.
the same. I thought that you're in New Zealand, and that is why I was just wondering that. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so Adi, finally we're talking, and tell me something first of all about your film. What was the basic idea behind this film?
Yeah, so a little known fact of history is that on the bottom rung of East India Company ships were Indian sailors. And a lot of the time when we've seen depictions of British ships, it's all British sailors. But the truth is that there were a bottom class on that ship, and they went by a name of Lascars. And they
Mm-hmm.
were largely Indians, Bengalis, mixture of Punjabis, Bengalis, Marathis, but even some Malaysians were in there. And I got really into this history. And being born in New Zealand and being of Indian ancestry, I was very interested in how Indians came to New Zealand and what that early history might have been like. And that's when I came across the subject matter for my film, which is that in the late 1700s, starting in around 1769, Indians began arriving in New Zealand to work on the shores, coming off of East India Company ships. And my film takes place in 1799 when they were involved in seal hunting, actually. So,
Mm. So first of all, I think you've shot it beautifully. The visuals are absolutely stunning. So congratulations for that. Um, but why the title?
why the title, The Lascar? Um, I think it's a topic I want to still uncover more.
Hmm.
But I think what my goal was with this film was to help give people an idea of what the life might have been of a Lascar, but in so many different places. Lascars were in South America, Alaska, New Zealand, Malaysia, Africa, Mauritius. These guys went everywhere. But I think there must have been some commonality in their experience, that
Hmm.
being that they had these British superiors and that they also had to contend with the local population that in most situations was being colonized by the British. So
Hmm.
even though this film is focused on the New Zealand history of Lascars, it felt appropriate for me to call it the Lascar because I felt like I did my best to try and draw universal themes of intersectionality and settler colonialism and where this Lascar's position might have been in that context. And I think it would relate to all of the experiences of many Lascars. The unfortunate reality is that the British didn't write down much about who these men were, and it's likely that these men might have been from very lower classes in India, potentially illiterate. So there isn't much known about them outside of the shipping logs or an anecdote here and there. There's growing amounts of research being put out there, but we're still yet to uncover and learn more about who these men were.
Okay, now I found it very fascinating that you decided to use my father's poetry in the beginning. Now, you being from South India and obviously have been away from India, like how come you thought of using his poetry?
Well, yeah, you're right. I grew up in California. I'm very far away from Hyderabad and Andhra, where my family's from.
Mm,
But first of all, the inspiration came from Amitabh Bachchan's voiceover in Lagan, that narration.
mm,
I wanted something as epic that grounds the viewer in there. But at the same time, I did not want to narrate the film. So I thought poetry is something and a huge tradition in India for millennia, and a continuing tradition to this day. And through that, I came to your father's poetry, Kabir's poetry, Faridoon Shahyar's poetry. And the three poems that I chose felt like very representative of someone commenting maybe on what the Lascar Dasa, the main character, is going through. And obviously these are men largely away from women. So I wanted the voiceover to kind of represent Mother India's opinion on this man. And instead of writing that on my own, I thought that I would use voices from India that have already spoken wise wisdom. So yeah, that's how I came across your father's poetry, and just a lot of research to find the right three poems for the film.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure because to choose such poetry is in itself shows about the I think the sort of gravitas that you have and the depth that you have. Interestingly, you're talking about Parveen Shakir, and Parveen Shakir's birthday is on 24th November.
Oh wow!
And the time when your film is based in, so it was part of like One India, like say she is technically from Pakistan, but the time that your film is based in, it is so that was India in the subcontinent in general. All right, and I think a lot of things you're trying to say through your silences, through your visuals. Why was it important for you to communicate as much as possible through visuals, through silences, through the way the people they're looking in each other's eyes?
I think, my film contends with Indians, British, and Maori, who are the indigenous people of New Zealand. And something I'm very interested in as an artist and also as a diaspora child is communication breakdown. I'm very used to traveling in North India and using very embarrassing Hindi, trying to get around. And most of the time it's Kana, right, that we connect over. But sometimes we're lost in translation. And I'm very fascinated by that moment of being lost in translation and how do you still make connections with people. And I've been very lucky to travel to many different countries, and I've often been lost in translation. And I know that what comes out is the truth comes out in the silences. So that's kind of one aspect of how I wanted to portray the film, which is that I didn't want to focus too much on dialogue. I wanted to focus more on their actions and what they did, and them being also lost in their lack of ability to communicate with one another, whether it's an emotional lack of communication or just a linguistic lack of communication.
Right. So yeah. So what is your plan, Adi? How do you plan to take this to the world? Are you planning to take it to various film festivals? If you release it on YouTube, are you planning some screenings maybe in India, for example? Have you had screenings in New Zealand so far? Have you had screenings in California?
So this year we actually we had our first screening with Indian Independent Film Festival. They're out of Kolkata, and that was we won Best Drama Short and Best Short Film there. That was really cool. And now we've just dropped it on the internet on YouTube. It's available for everyone to watch. And now it's really about trying to get the story out to as many people. I do hope to do some screenings in New Zealand and in India, because I think it's a pretty there's a lot of complexities in the film, and I think it's a film that provokes conversation, and I think that's why film screenings are always beautiful, because they prompt us to talk with one another. So I would love that. But right now, if someone wants to watch it, they just have to go onto YouTube, look up the Lascar, and leave a comment, and we can begin the discussion there first.
All right. So Adi, we are living in times when there's a lot of discussion and debates on how the immigrants, they have been contributing to the Western society, like say Indian immigrants, for example. They have been contributing a lot to the Western society or developed society per se, including say New Zealand. At the same time, there is this discussion which has been going on for several years now on equality, why the class differences, they should not be really making any difference anymore, and it's all about equality, because there is an element of class difference as far as your film is concerned.
Yes.
How do you look at these discussions and with reference to your film?
Yeah. Being an American citizen, but also, you know, my mother and father are from Andhra. I've been to India multiple times in my life. I'm very aware of, and have been since I was a child, very aware of um, being an immigrant in America, being from an immigrant family, and trying to figure out our position in the context of a country that already has its own narrative, right? So in America, there's multiple narratives, for instance, but often you might get caught in a bicultural narrative. It could be black and white. It could be Mexicans and Americans. It could be Native Americans and the Mayflower Americans. It could be, you know, so many different things. And often I found myself caught in the middle of that, even as an adult, going, where's my position in all of this? And I found that very interesting in the Lascar. I found that same connection with Lascars personally, because these were men who had to find their own way, often in the middle of the colonizer and the colonized. And these guys were already partially colonized, having to make their own way through the world and form their own opinions. And I think in my film, Dasa, he has his own ulterior motives in his own way. He's looking out for himself, number one. And I think there's, you know, unfortunate consequences of that. And I think when I look at it from my perspective as an American, in America, Indian Americans, we're 1% of this country. We provide 6% of the economy. We're a very powerful minority in America. And we're only coming to understand what it is our privilege actually means here. And I want to see my community here use it for the best. I don't know if we always do. You know, personally, my politics aren't that of Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley, but those are two South Asian Americans on the stage of the Republican debate running for president. Whether we like them or not is up to each individual, but those two people are on stage. So I think that now we're coming to this big turning point for Desis in the diaspora. It's not just in America. You know, Rishi Sunak is Prime Minister of the UK, and we have to ask ourselves, you know, what is our position here and how do we want to contribute? And are we only looking out for ourselves, or what is the impact we want to have overall? And I don't have the answers to that, but I like engaging with it, especially through story. So my first attempt at engaging with that is really through Lascar and through Dasa, the main character. Yeah.
Okay, one last question. For example, like when I saw the film, I did just realize that like, you know, the way that it had been shot, visually, and the locations. I believe that there must be expenses involved. So how do you make a film like this commercially viable?
Yeah, that's a good question. And if anyone has the answers, leave it in the comments. I'm trying to figure it out as I go.
Mm-hmm.
But the one main thing is I'm so grateful for the support I got to be able to make this film. And I think it's a very unique film in regards to how we got our funding to make this. We didn't have much money. I mean, I would say in regards to the quality that we brought to the film, we did it for very little. It was a large group of young people, and, you know, salute to all of them. They're an incredible bunch who came together because they believed in the story. And we all huddled out on the very windy coast of New Zealand making this film. But we were able to do so because I raised money from the Indian High Commission of New Zealand, Indian Central Association of New Zealand, Auckland Tamil Association of New Zealand, and then also crowdfunding, family and friends. But I'm very grateful to those three organizations and POW Studios. They all believed in the story, and they got behind the story and helped us make it happen. So in regards to making it commercially viable, my original goal with this film was to make a proof of concept. I have a whole world of Lascars that I really want to share with everybody. So I thought I would make this first little stepping stone for people to understand. But it ended up being a lot bigger than I expected it to be. And that's also just the nature of the shoot. You know, we went in thinking it was going to be one way, and we were met with crazy weather. It was our own little film school apocalypse now. And, but I think we came out and we made a very meditative movie. And yeah, I hope people will start to engage with this subject, and then I'm very ready to make more.
Yeah, so, and that's my last question to you. What are your future plans? What is your next project like?
Yeah, so always I'm always developing the Lascar and the future for that. But now I'm very interested in where I grew up in California. I grew up in a beautiful neighborhood here. We had block parties, lots of South Asians, lots of Malaysians, Australians, and I just grew up in Mexicans. I grew up in a very unique neighborhood. So I'd like to talk about that. And then historically, I'm also very interested in Punjabi Mexican history in California. So I'm researching that right now, and I'm looking for a story. So yeah, I'm developing a few different projects, and I hope to make a feature film soon. That's the big goal.
Amazing. All right. So, Adi, congratulations, and wonderful response so far. And all the best wishes for all your future ventures. And I'm sure that
Thank you.
you're going to go from strength to strength. Lovely talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Go watch the film, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.